New reporting in the Wall Street Journal tonight says that despite years of denials from the president and the White House and surrogates for the president on television, the president was involved nearly every step of the way in payments to Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels to keep them quiet about their alleged sexual encounters with Mr. Trump. The report says it's evidence that the president may have violated federal campaign finance laws, and we'll hear from a Wall Street Journal reporter about what they found in a moment. But first, keep them honest about those denials. As you may recall, the president himself has spoken on camera once about the $130,000 hush money payment to Stormy Daniels. It happened on Air Force One back in April.
Did you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels?
No.
Why did Michael Cohen make it if there was no truth to your allegation?
Well, you have to ask Michael Cohen. Michael's an attorney, and you'll have to ask Michael Cohen.
Do you know where he got the money to make that payment?
I don't know. No.
By the way, subsequently, he has downplayed Michael Cohen's relationship with him and the fact that he was his attorney. Pretty clear denial there from the president, saying that flat out he didn't know about the payment. That was after Sarah Sanders also said point blank from the White House the president didn't know.
There was no knowledge of any payments from the president, and he's denied all of these allegations.
And for the next couple months, Sanders kept up the same line about the payments, right up until Rudy Giuliani admitted that the president reimbursed Michael Cohen for the payment to Stormy Daniels.
Specifically, can I ask, did the president approve of the payment that was made in October of 2016 by his longtime lawyer and advisor, Michael Cohen?
Look, the president has addressed these directly and made very well clear that none of these allegations are true.
No.
I've addressed this as far as I can go.
But that payment, did he know about the payment at the time?
Not that I'm aware of.
You haven't answered the substantive question about whether the president was aware of the $130,000 payment that was made under an agreement in which he is explicitly named to keep Stormy Daniels silent. Can you answer that question? You were asked 3 weeks ago today and said you weren't aware. Are you aware now?
Look, the president has denied the allegations. We've spoken about this issue extensively, and I don't have anything else to add beyond that. Anything beyond that, I would refer you to the outside counsel. It's outside counsel.
Follow up on it. You said on March 7th there was no knowledge of any payments from the president, and he's denied all of these allegations. Were you lying to us at the time, or were you in the dark?
The president has denied and continues to deny the underlying claim. And again, I've given the best information I had at the time.
The best information she had at the time wasn't very good information. Keeping him honest, in August, as part of his guilty plea, Cohen admitted that he made payments, quote, at the direction of a candidate to influence the election. Now, according to the Wall Street Journal, the president was involved in or briefed on nearly every step of those hush money agreements. Wall Street Journal reporter Michael Rothfeld has one of the bylines on today's new reporting. He joins us now. Thanks for being with us. Just extraordinary reporting, as always. According to it, this actually goes way back to August of 2015 in a meeting at Trump Tower between Trump and David Pecker, who's the chief executive at American Media Incorporated, which is the company that owns the National Enquirer, among others.
That's right. And when Michael Cohen pleaded guilty in August, the prosecutors in their filing had mentioned there was an agreement in August 2015. What we report today is that that agreement actually happened, as you say, when David Pecker went to Trump's office and Trump said to him, the campaign was 2 months old, what can you do to help my campaign? And Pecker said, if stories come out about women from your past, allegations of affairs, I can help you kill them, just as I've done for others in the past by buying their stories. And I'll alert Michael Cohen, and then we'll take care of it.
And based on all the reporting, I mean, that's exactly what the National Enquirer did.
That's right. In the following June, Karen McDougal, the Playmate of the Year in 1998, was looking to sell her story, and her lawyer contacted Dylan Howard, the chief content officer of American Media, and Howard called Cohen. Cohen told Trump, and then Trump called Pecker and said, hey, can you help me out with this? And then there were some negotiations. They didn't immediately buy it, but after she started talking to ABC News, investigative reporters, AMI went back and they paid $150,000 in coordination with Michael Cohen and with Donald Trump to buy her story and silence her.
And you also learned more details about where the money came from to pay Stormy Daniels.
That's right. Well, we know the money ultimately came from Michael Cohen's home equity line, but there was a discussion among Michael Cohen and Trump and Alan Weisselberg, according to what Cohen has told prosecutors, the CFO of the Trump organization, about how to route the money to Stormy Daniels without having Trump's fingerprints on it, that they discussed potentially routing it through a Trump-owned property, but ultimately they couldn't figure it out. That's why, as we've previously reported, Cohen missed deadlines to pay Stormy Daniels. She nearly backed out, and finally he was just like, all right, I got to pay it myself out of my home equity line.
And Cohen actually made money off the deal, is that right?
He did, because he was reimbursed by the Trump organization, through the Trump organization CFO. The money came from Trump, but he did get a $60,000 bonus for doing this, and the money was grossed up to take care of his income taxes because they characterized it as legal fees.
So according to your reporting, then the past essentially 2 years of denials from the president about any knowledge of paying hush money to these women and all the surrogates and Sarah Sanders is just a lie.
Pretty much, because they had initially, when we reported the Karen McDougal deal 4 days before the presidential election, we reported today that Hope Hicks, Trump's campaign spokesman, went to Trump and asked him about it, and she came back after speaking to him based on what she was told and said, we have no knowledge of any of this. But just in the last couple of months, we heard this secret tape Michael Cohen made in which he's talking to President Trump about actually buying the rights to Karen McDougal's story in September of 2016, like just right before we reported that. So there's evidence beyond our reporting today, which is based on 36 people we spoke to, that Trump actually knew about it, even though he denied it.
Also, if my memory serves me correct, in that Michael Cohen tape, Trump and Cohen were talking about basically buying the file from David Pecker about all of Trump's alleged indiscretions and all the stories that had been killed, because Trump was concerned, if David Pecker got hit by I think it was a truck. Yeah, it was a truck. You don't know what's going to happen to the file.
Yeah, that's what he said on the tape that Cohen made. And there were some discussions about that. They thought maybe there were some source files about, because Pecker had been covering up for Trump in terms of killing bad stories about him for many years. And so they wanted to do that.
Well, it's remarkable reporting from the Wall Street Journal. Michael Rothfeld, thank you very much.
Thank you.
With me now, former U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara and CNN Chief Legal Analyst Jeffrey Toobin. So, Jeff, what is the significance of this new reporting?
Well, I would say two things. One, that the president has just been lying about this to the public over and over again. About his knowledge, his involvement.
Right. And probably lying to Sarah Sanders and Hope Hicks and anybody who's around him.
Correct. That he has just been lying about this from as soon as the questions arose. The more complicated question is whether the president is implicated in a crime, because that rests on the question of were these payments to these women campaign contributions, which of course were not reported and not handled in the appropriate way. He could be accused of campaign finance violations if he used these payments, coordinated with, conspired with the American media, AMI, in violation of the campaign finance laws. That's a harder legal question. I don't know the answer to that, but the lying is quite clear.
Preet, is that the significance? A campaign finance violation, traditionally it's a monetary fine, correct? Is that really a big deal?
Yeah, it can be, and it also can be a criminal violation. And with respect to the reason why the lies are important, because they go to what the intent of the president was, right? So if the president was being notified of all these things, and as the Wall Street Journal reporting that's very extensive and thorough suggests that he was in on it at every phase of the process, what was in his mind? And even though the lying that went on with respect to the public is not in and of itself a crime, it's not like lying to a law enforcement agent or lying to a grand jury or lying in court, it is often able to be used as evidence later to suggest, well, what was the reason for the lying? What was the thing you were trying to hide? Now, there's an argument that he could make, and that John Edwards made in a similar case that was brought by the Justice Department, that the reason the lying was taking place, and the reason this obfuscation was taking place, was not to avoid the campaign finance laws primarily, but to avoid embarrassment within his own family. That argument seemed to prevail in the John Edwards case. These are not identical, Jeff appreciates.
Right, yeah.
They're not the same case at all. But there's an element of that issue here that we don't know the answer to because the reporting doesn't go quite that far.
What makes, I think, the Trump case stronger against Trump is that the money in the John Edwards case came from an elderly supporter who just sort of wanted to help John Edwards. this is a business, American media, the National Enquirer. Why would they spend this money other than to help Donald Trump get elected president? I mean, why are they so worried about Donald Trump's marriage? They have an interest in preserving a relationship with the guy who's about to get elected president of the United States.
For either personal friendly reasons or because they have, want to have an advantage, something to hold over the president of the United States for future business dealings.
Correct. So I think it's a stronger case than the John Edwards case, but I don't want to give the impression it's any sort of slam dunk.